Pain doesn't knock politely. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It shows up uninvited, ripping through your comfort, shattering your expectations, and dragging you to places you never thought you'd go. And when it hits, it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care about your timeline, your plans, your goals. It doesn't care that you were trying. It just breaks you, swiftly, brutally, quietly. Sometimes it's loud, a betrayal, a death, a heartbreak so sharp it carves its name into your bones. Other times it's a slow erosion, an accumulation of moments that eat away at your soul until one day you look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize who's staring back. But here's the truth no one tells you while you're drowning. Pain is a forge, and while it may feel like it's destroying you, it's actually remaking you. Not gently, not kindly, but honestly. Because pain has a way of stripping you of every illusion, of control, of certainty, of who you thought you needed to be. It takes everything that isn't real and burns it to ash. What's left is raw, it's exposed, it hurts like hell, but it's real. And in that rawness, that naked vulnerability, lies the foundation of something unshakable: power. Real power doesn't come from winning all the time. It doesn't come from ease. It's born in suffering. It's shaped by nights where you couldn't sleep, days where you wanted to give up, moments where you were alone and broken and still got up anyway. Every scar, every tear, every failure, it's all a part of your armor now. Not something to be ashamed of, but something to wield, because power isn't about pretending you're invincible. It's about knowing how many times you've been shattered and still chose to rebuild. You see, pain gives you a choice. It can bury you, or it can build you. And what determines the difference isn't what happened, it's what you do with it. Most people run from their pain. They numb it, drink it away, scroll it away, talk it away, pretend it doesn't exist. But the ones who rise, they face it. They look it in the eyes and say, "Okay, you're here, so now what are you here to teach me?" And that's when pain starts to shift. That's when it becomes fuel. Not a chain that keeps you down, but a fire that pushes you forward. There's a reason so many of the most powerful people in history were forged through suffering. Warriors, thinkers, creators, leaders, people who knew what it was to be crushed and learned how to rebuild from the ground up. They weren't born with steel in their spine. They earned it. They earned it through every trial that tried to break them, through every moment they were underestimated, overlooked, discarded, betrayed, through every time they had to rise without applause, fight without support, believe in themselves when no one else did. Pain teaches you who you are when everything else is stripped away. It introduces you to the parts of yourself you wouldn't have met in comfort. The resilience, the clarity, the strength that doesn't scream, but refuses to quit. That's what pain is offering you if you're willing to accept it, if you're willing to walk through it, not around it. Because power isn't given to those who avoid the fire. It's earned by those who learn how to walk through it without being consumed. And no, it's not easy. It's messy. It's brutal. There will be days when it feels like too much. Days when you want to give up, when the weight is too heavy, when the darkness whispers that this is where it ends. But those moments, that's where the shift happens. That's where transformation begins. Because pain is pressure, and pressure creates diamonds. Not through comfort, but through intensity, through force, through time. And every second you endure it, every breath you take while holding the weight, you're becoming something greater. The world will try to tell you to move on, to get over it, to be strong, as if pain is something to hide. But real strength doesn't come from pretending you're unaffected. It comes from feeling everything and choosing to rise anyway. It comes from carrying your pain with grace, from turning wounds into wisdom, scars into stories, and heartbreak into heat. Because that heat, that pressure, that fire inside of you, it's the very thing that will forge you into something unstoppable. Use it. Let the tears remind you you're alive. Let the ache sharpen your focus. Let the betrayal become the push you didn't know you needed. Let it all break you open, not to destroy you, but to strip you down to your truth, to show you who you really are when everything else falls away. Pain doesn't have to be the thing that defines you. It can be the thing that refines you, that strengthens your resolve, that ignites a version of you no one saw coming. Not even you. This is not the end. This is the becoming, the in-between, the fire before the rise. And it's where you build your foundation, not on perfection, not on who you were before the pain, but on the version of you that emerged from it, on the one who stayed standing, on the one who kept showing up, even while bleeding. That's your power, not the absence of pain, but the alchemy of it, the ability to take your lowest moments and use them as the very bricks that build your future. So don't numb it, don't run from it, sit with it, learn from it, let it hurt, and then let it teach. Let it fuel every workout, every late-night grind, every chapter you write, every moment you refuse to stay small. Let it become the echo in your soul that says, I've been through worse. I've survived things that tried to bury me, and I'm still here. That is your edge. That is your weapon. That is your power. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't need to know exactly where this leads. But know this. If you stay in the fire, if you choose to endure, to grow, to rise, part 2 is waiting. And part 2, that's where you become untouchable. There comes a moment after all the pain, all the breakdown, when the silence starts to sound different. It's no longer the silence of loss or confusion. It's the silence of control, of presence, of clarity. The storm quiets, and what's left isn't the person you were before the pain. It's someone new, someone forged, not born. Someone who didn't just survive the fire, they learned how to use it. They learned how to shape it into something that no one can take away. Power. This is the part they don't see. The long nights, the inner battles, the work you put in when no one is clapping for you. This is the part where pain stops being the weight that drags you and becomes the weight you lift. This is where everything changes, not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you get harder to break. You stop flinching at difficulty. You stop fearing discomfort. You start seeking it. Not because you want to suffer, but because you know what happens when you face it head on. You know what lives on the other side. What pain gave you wasn't just suffering. It gave you leverage. It gave you experience. It gave you something real to push against, because there's something unshakable about a person who has already been broken and rebuilt themselves. They don't need to bluff. They don't need to fake strength. They carry it. You feel it when they walk in the room. That quiet confidence, that edge, that gravity. They don't need to say much because their existence already speaks volumes. You become someone who doesn't need external validation to move. You don't need applause to keep going. You don't need revenge either. Because your growth becomes the revenge. Your success becomes the proof. You're not proving them wrong anymore. You're proving yourself right. And that shift from pain to power is where your evolution becomes irreversible. People will start to notice. They'll see the way you move differently. The way you no longer tolerate the things you used to beg for. The way your boundaries are sharp, but your energy is soft. They'll see the discipline in your eyes, the peace in your posture, and they'll wonder where it came from. But they weren't there in the fire. They didn't see the nights where you cried alone but still showed up the next morning. They didn't witness the 1,000 small choices you made to keep pushing, to keep believing, to keep becoming. You won't need to explain it. You'll just live it. And with that, you realize something else. Pain wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning. It was the rebirth, the starting point of a version of you that doesn't get shaken by temporary losses or people who don't understand your vision. The old you was reactive, fragile, hopeful in all the wrong directions. But the new you is deliberate, precise, dangerous in the best way. You use your pain to fuel the habits that create mastery. You use it to run further, train harder, build longer. When you're tired, you remember those days when pain was your only companion, and you kept going anyway. So now, fatigue doesn't scare you. Rejection doesn't faze you. Loneliness doesn't deter you. You've made peace with the darkness. And once you've made peace with the dark, no light outside of you can ever blind you again. You stop waiting for motivation and start relying on discipline. You stop asking for chances and start creating them. You stop seeking permission and start leading yourself. That's what pain gave you, the understanding that no one is coming to save you. And at first, that truth hurts. But eventually, it sets you free. Because if no one is coming to save you, then you don't need to wait to begin. You take the first step. You build your way out. You become the one you were waiting for. And that's when the world starts to shift around you. Because power isn't just what you do, it's who you become. It's the energy that follows you. It's the standard you refuse to drop. It's the choices you make when no one's watching. And when you walk with that kind of energy, people feel it. They're drawn to it. They're intimidated by it. Some will hate you for it. Others will want to be close to it. But you won't care either way. Because you didn't build this to be liked. You built it to be free, to be unshakable, to be legendary in your own story. You'll start attracting differently. No more begging for crumbs of attention. No more performing for people who never deserved your light. Now you know your value. You protect it. You guard it with intention. And that kind of self-respect, that's what makes you unstoppable. You're not for everyone, and that's the point. You're not meant to be consumed casually. You're meant to be revered, respected, earned. You'll stop breaking your back to prove your worth to people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. You'll stop settling for situations that give you anxiety more than they give you peace. You'll look at old patterns and wonder how you ever tolerated them. That's what healing through pain does. It rewires you. It changes what you tolerate, what you chase, what you desire. And here's the full circle. The people who once overlooked you, doubted you, hurt you, they'll feel your absence before they ever understand your power. That's not a threat. That's a guarantee. Because your rise wasn't loud, but it was absolute. Because your silence held more weight than their excuses ever did. And when they see what you've become, they won't recognize you. That's okay. You weren't becoming someone they'd remember. You were becoming someone they'd never be able to reach again. You've outgrown them. Outgrown the version of you that needed them. And now your focus is forward. Not bitter, just better. Not angry, just awake. Not petty, just powerful. You don't need to look back anymore. You don't need to chase anything that left. You've built a home within yourself so strong, so anchored, that no storm outside of you can ever touch you again. This is your power. Not just surviving what tried to break you, but using it as the very reason you rose. You didn't just heal, you evolved. And now, you carry the fire that once tried to consume you, and you use it to light the world.